Hello, everyone, and welcome to our experiences using Handshake to manage internships as HIPs with our celebrity presenters, Krysta and Lori from Kennesaw State University. Thank you all for attending. We see our numbers growing. We're going to give folks just a minute before diving in and getting underway. We want to be mindful of your time while also ensuring that we are leaving time for your questions. So at 10:01, we will begin. So thank you for waiting. In the meantime, while we're waiting, for those who are already here, just so we ensure that all things technology are working, if you can go ahead and give us a friendly hi in that question bar to let us know that you can see our screen and hear us well, that will be great. Love it. We're getting some love here, Krysta and Lori. Go Owls from Sherry Blight.
Hooty hoo.
Hooty hoo, I love it. All right, folks, it's 10:01, and I hope you're all feeling bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, but that's for our owls. Thank you, everyone, for responding in the chat. I'm going to do some quick table setting. Kathy, you are too sweet. Always a fan. Kathy is one of our avid attendees. She might have the award for like most attended webinars. For those just joining us, this is an experiences-focused webinar with our presenters, Krysta and Lori from Kennesaw State University. We will be sending a recording of this webinar after this session for everyone who is registered, and your colleagues who registered and weren't able to attend will also get a recording, and the recording will also be available on our webinars page where you registered for this webinar. So don't worry, it will come available for you. And Lori and Krysta love you all so much. Their information will be on the last slide so you can reach out to them after. So without having to think about that, hopefully we can immerse ourselves and be very present for the webinar. Additionally, we have a phenomenal army of handshakers working on the back end. We will have time for questions, but no need to wait until the end. If those are coming up, there's a phenomenal slide that gets shared and you really want us to dive into that, please submit your questions in the same question bar that you all see down on your webinar control panel, and our handshake army will either respond to them or surface them for Lori and Krysta to answer towards the end. So let's get that engagement going up. Who better to learn from than our superstars on the ground? So without further ado, Lori and Krysta, take it away.
All right. Hello, everyone. We are East Coast, so happy, I guess, good afternoon. My name is Lori Trahan, and I am an Associate Director for the Division of Enrollment Services. And specifically, I work with Handshake. I was the implementation specialist on the campus for Handshake, and I still do all the troubleshooting and data mining of Handshake. I have been at Kennesaw State since 1998, so I've seen a lot of growth at this institution, and looking forward to sharing our experiences with all of you.
Awesome. Hey, everybody. My name is Krysta Fry, and I am one of the assistant directors here in the Department of Career Planning and Development. My role is specifically on our advising team, so I am in more of kind of a student-facing role as the assistant director of career advising and planning. So Lori and I work really closely together as I provide some oversight to the internship and co-op program across the university, kind of working as a liaison between each of our academic colleges and in each of our academic departments. I have been at KSU since about 2012, but I actually graduated from KSU with my bachelor's degree, so I am an owl at heart. But I'm super excited to be with you guys today and kind of talk you through also some of the assistance that we get through Handshake with really transforming our internship and co-op program into a high impact practice here at KSU.
All right, so here you see our agenda for the day. We are going to go through this at a pretty high level, but if anybody has any questions or concerns, or you just want to see more detail, feel free to ask questions. Krysta and I are also very happy to talk with anybody offline. We will be sharing our contact information towards the end, because we are very excited about what Experiences has brought to KSU, and how we have managed to use Experiences to raise the profile of the co-op and internship program at KSU, with our quality enhancement program, QEP, for this year. So Tiffany, if you want to go to the next, there we go. So a little bit about KSU, just so that we can, you get a little understanding about who we are. We were founded in 1963, so we're kind of a baby on the higher education front. We currently have around 37,000 full-time enrollment. Just to give you a little perspective, when I started at KSU in 1998, our enrollment was 13,000. So we have grown tremendously over the last 20 years. Our average age is 23. And again, that has changed significantly. When I started, our average age was 31. We are located across 2 campuses and 1 site. In 2014, we actually consolidated with another university about 10 miles down the road. And we have had great success with incorporating 2 very, very different models of how co-op and internship worked across 2 campuses that specialized in 2 different things. Kennesaw State is also the home of the turnover plank. You can see Plank up here wearing his suit, getting ready to head to the ball game. University of Miami has their turnover chain. We have turnover plank. And you can see Plank actually did get an internship. You know, at the Home Depot. It might be a little dangerous for him, given, you know, the fact that he's a block of wood, but he filled out his Experiences application, so we are happy, and we're going to actually show you his Experiences application in just a little bit. So with our internship and co-op program, we've used a lot of systems to manage the program as well. When we started our internship program at Kennesaw, we were using paper like everybody else. At our campus, Southern Polytechnic State, they always used paper. They never went to an online system until consolidation happened. About 2011, we decided at Kennesaw, you know, we really need to at least move into the 20th century, if not the 21st. So let's go ahead and create an in-house system that we use to manage the program through Banner. And our UITS program, our office, was fantastic about building us a system, and it worked pretty well for us, and we used that through 2017. After consolidation, we did have the Marietta campus come online, and at the time we were a Simplicity school. So they started using Simplicity to manage the co-op and internship program there. And then in 2017, we switched to Handshake. And we decided we were going to do everything in Handshake, appointment management, employer relations, you name it, we do it in Handshake, and that includes managing our Experiences system. And of course, this list does not really include everybody who does not use our office to manage their co-op and internship program, but approximately 80% of departments on campus do use the Career Planning and Development Office to manage the co-op and internship program.
Awesome. So shortly after consolidation, our university kind of came up to the time when we needed to create a new quality enhancement plan. So a new kind of 5-year strategic plan of the aspects of what our university wanted to enhance the quality of over those next 5 years. So the decision came to be that we were really going to invest time in creating the research, service learning, and internships, and really transforming those three, very well-known high-impact practices, but we weren't necessarily kind of delivering them as high-impact practices at the university consistently and across the board. So our university started to strategically plan and kind of look at what changes need to be made in order to make these three, specifically today we're going to focus on internships and co-ops, but to make them a high impact practice. And so our office was really fortunate that we were able to sit on not only the planning committee, but also the steering committee for the quality enhancement plan for the university, and also the implementation committee. So we've had a seat at the table in a lot of these really transformative discussions and how we're going to transform these experiences for students. And Handshake has been a really big part of that, and how we've kind of explained that transformative process. So today I just wanted to kind of give you the definition if you're not aware of what a high impact practice is. This is a really kind of broad definition by Dr. Koo, but there is so much great research out there if you haven't had a chance to dig in yet about the transformation that high impact practices can give to students in their college experiences. Perfect. So here you'll see on the screen the evolution of our internship and co-op program has not been an overnight success by any means, but it's one that has required a lot of patience and time and attention over several years. So before we kind of get into the timeline, and I won't go through it piece by piece, but I will just kind of highlight some key points to you. One of the central messages that you'll hear me talk about today in this timeline is the utmost importance of relationship building. And so wherever you're sitting today, I'm sure you know that building those relationships, regardless of the kind of setting you are, can make you really successful, or it can really kind of dampen your success. And so that's something that we really wanted to hit home and keep in mind, that we kind of at our peaks and valleys of success were relationships. And so that's something that you should keep in mind kind of as you move this charge forward on your own campuses. So prior to 2007, we were a centralized process in terms of having one person that was kind of managing and being the liaison for any academic department at KSU that wanted to work with us in terms of vetting internships for academic credit, creating a streamlined application process for that. So we had one person for, like Lori said, probably around 13,000 students and multiple academic departments. So that is a huge task and a huge challenge. So after that, the director that was in our office at that time decided, we need some real support from the university in order to make this a successful centralized process, which is what the university was in support of. So we created these positions called the career and internship advisors. So those advisors would work specifically with academic departments and academic colleges across the university, including their office being housed in those colleges or close to those colleges, to really understand what the students needed and what the faculty needed, really. And so those CIAs is what we call them. They were assigned to those academic colleges, and then the true kind of streamlining of the centralized process began. So as you can imagine, when you're trying to create some streamlining and some processes that can be consistent across the university, buy-in takes a lot of time. We had a lot of different types of systems where internships were being processed and based on what one specific faculty member wanted to do for that college, and it worked well for them. So it's challenging kind of coming into a process halfway saying, okay, well, this is the process you're doing, but this is the process that we kind of want to do on a university level. So we had some early adopters, which you'll see here in the 2008, 2011. We had people that came on board with us and wanted to jump in quickly to say, yep, we love the streamlining. We really want to make sure that it's a clean, easy process for students to understand. And we were really fortunate that we found a a lot of variety in that buy-in across the university. As you'll see, some of our earliest departments that that allowed us to be a part of their process in their internship and co-op application was the College of Science and Math. We had a couple folks from arts, management, specifically from our College of Business, one or two departments from the College of Humanities and Social Sciences, and then one department from Health and Human Services. So when you're kind of thinking about the internship and co-op model at your university, what I would encourage you is to think about it like an elephant, and know that it's going to take time to really kind of, you know, consume and really get buy-in from all of your academic departments and colleges. So at the beginning, take what you can get, really allow those early adopters to be your guinea pigs, but also allow them to kind of be your brand ambassadors too. So work with them, really figure out what works well for them in creating a streamlined process. So like I said at the beginning, the relationship management was huge. We had a specific person actually who is unfortunately no longer with our department, but he was really great. And he was a key component in helping us build these relationships with some of these academic departments. You know, he really went in, he listened, he understood what they needed, and really forged those relationships with them. So it was more of a partnership rather than, you know, the faculty or the department feeling like we're just trying to come over and take over a process. That was not what we wanted to do. So kind of fast forwarding to 2013, you know, as we continue from 2013 to now, we've continued to really bring on more of those academic departments. And at the same time, which isn't noted here, but we've also added in some more career and internship advisors. So that role really went from one or two, built out to about 7 folks. And so really getting that tailored attention to each academic college and having a liaison that those folks can go to say, hey, this is working for us, this isn't, was a really huge part of that process. So, you know, Lori mentioned that we came onto Handshake in 2017. So after consolidation, we noticed things picked up and moved really quickly. So we brought on our College of Engineering and College of Computing and Software Engineering down here on our Marietta campus, which was formerly the SPSU campus. So Handshake really allowed us to easily transition them into a process that made sense. So that was a really fantastic point for us. But as I mentioned, you know, we're continuing to build these relationships. So we have places that we still want to go. We have departments that we still want to bring on board, and I've listed a couple of those here below just kind of as question marks. But what we want to keep in mind is that this is their process. So however they want to manage their internship and co-op process, at least here at KSU, those processes are owned by the academic colleges. And so if they want to buy in and they want to, you know, be a part of that process, we are excited. We're their biggest champions. And if they don't, that's okay. We have found throughout, you know, since 2007, that even a no is really typically a not right now. And so continue to forge those relationships with those academic partners and those faculty, because honestly, it really pays off in the long run in creating a great service related relationship, but also really letting them know how your department can serve them and how you can really be champions together for students. I did want to mention, as we kind of worked to bring some of these folks on board, I think some of our biggest pieces of success, you know, staff placement and really building that relationship were crucial, but investigating your academic partners' internship and co-op process and how they manage those applications currently, you know, prior to you introducing what you can offer them with Handshake, is crucial. And so really making sure, you know, like any sort of communication, that they feel heard, they feel understood, but that you also know their successes with their current system, you also know their pain points, and you also know what their non-negotiables are. So what are the parts of their process that you are like, absolutely, they need this specific piece, and that's a piece we won't be able to change. We always encourage meeting in person. We think it's very important to do that. And if you can't meet in person, obviously right now, meet over video. That warm connection is really important. We like to bring departmental swag. So if you have pins, or we always bring little owls, which is really fun, just to kind of really relax the meeting and let them know that you're there to be a colleague and to be a partner. And then really first and foremost, we want to make sure that with any system, there's going to be pros and cons. So with their system, with our system, but we want to make sure that they know what the system can do and what the system can't do. And so typically, if they're like asking for a specific thing that we know that we probably won't be able to do right now, we want to make sure that we're honest with them about that. And the typical kind of answer that we're giving is, let me go back, research that. It may not happen right now, but that's definitely something that feedback that we want to give for the future. So, but that honesty is really important in building that relationship. And then typically we lay out a timeline for the process. So what we need from them in order to really start their internship and co-op process in the experiences module, laying out kind of what needs to be done from each party, and recapping all of that in an email, because it can be challenging for someone that's had the same process for 10 or 15 years to then switch to a new process. So I think following up is super important. Cool. So for our workflow, and Lori is going to go.
Krysta, I just wanted to share. I hope I didn't progress that slide too quickly. I just wanted to share, you and Lori have just been sharing so beautifully this timeline with folks, and I just want you to know, just from our experience here at Handshake, that some folks can feel that experiences is overwhelming. So your honesty around, here's our timeline, take what you could get, being maybe newer to advancing technology is really helping some of our attendees feel good. So thank you for that kind of timeline and how you're addressing it, because I know we do have both experienced and new folks on our webinar. So just wanted to give you a shout out there.
I love that. Awesome. So for our workflow and kind of thinking through how each application, moves virtually from hand to hand, it's important to know that throughout this entire workflow process, the career and internship advisors manage that process from start to finish. So for their academic college, for their academic departments, we have someone that has eyes on it through each step. And I think that's pretty crucial. And I think Lori would agree with me as well. For that student input, that is where the student is initiating their experience form. So their application for academic internship or co-op credit starts with them by starting that experience form. Then once that is complete, it will move into this CIA team review. So whoever, whatever major that student is assigned to for the career and internship advisor, that advisor will then take charge of that application. Or that experience form, look over it for accuracy. If there's anything that the student needs to go back and update, the advisor is making sure that they're communicating that with the student, but also noting any red flags. So we find this with some of our co-op experiences, just to be honest, if we have a co-op student that is applying for academic credit, but they say that their co-op is unpaid, that's typically kind of a red flag for us. So we want to know, typically co-ops are full-time, they're paid experiences. So why is your pay at zero for this position? So looking over job descriptions, making sure there's nothing funky going on. Our advising team is really fantastic at doing that. So then the advisor will move it to an approval flow. So there could be a couple of different types of folks in there. Could be a faculty member. Typically, we always have a worksite supervisor that's approving that, just to make sure that their rate of pay is what they said it was, the student, and also their job description matches what that worksite supervisor has prepared for them. Then once the approval is granted from, if there's a faculty member on that approval flow, or if there's a worksite supervisor on that approval flow, the career and internship advisor will then take that application again, look over the approvals, make sure there's no notes that any of those approvers gave that would impact the process. And our advisors, actually, most of them manage the class registration for that internship or co-op. So if the student, needs any overrides to get into that internship or co-op class, they're typically the ones to work on that and making sure that they get registered appropriately. We also have, for many of our majors, we have end of semester evaluations that we push out. For this, we specifically use Qualtrics. And so if that's a system that you would like to talk to Lori and I about at a later date, we're super happy to do that. We found that with these evaluations, our teams in each academic college needed something that was very kind of specific, and also we needed to be able to have really kind of hands in, boots on the ground administrative processes with those evaluations. And so, but that is a piece that the career and internship advisors manage.
All right, so now we're going to take a look at Plank's application. And yes, we know this is kind of tiny print, and we apologize for that. But this screen shows you what it looks like on the student side after they have completed their application. So Plank has submitted his application, and you can see on the left, we have a couple of documents that we upload that we encourage the students to give to their site supervisor. So it's a welcome guide and a guiding principles. As you can imagine, the guiding principles document underwent quite a bit of a revision this year with COVID. So we definitely encourage students to get that information to their employer so they understand exactly what they're getting into with agreeing to be a site supervisor for a co-op or an internship student. And the student gets a nice overview of everything. And then plus this will also go on the student's profile page in Handshake if the student selects to have it automatically enter there. So it's one less piece of data entry that the students have to do. So let's go to the next slide and we'll start. So this is more on the back end. Once the application has been completed, and you can see here we have, up here at the top, we have, this is an accounting application, so we only have the worksite supervisor. One of the really cool things about Handshake's experiences module is it can be as flexible as you need it to be. So if you have a major that they want 3 faculty members to look at it before a worksite supervisor looks at it, you can do that. If your faculty are saying, you know what, we completely trust you, you don't need to come through us to get approval on this, we only need the worksite supervisor to sign off on the application, you can do that too. So for this one, we only had the worksite supervisor, and the site supervisor did approve it. And the information up at the towards the top of the application, that is all standard information. So the information that you saw about the job description and the employer on the first page there where the student application was, that is all standard by Handshake. Everything else on here, we built in surveys. And so these are questions that we ask for all of our majors, regardless of what major they are pursuing, but the order that they show up may be slightly different based on the major. For example, our dance majors are required to upload a copy of their work schedule as part of their application process, whereas our accounting majors are not required to do that. And so that page shows up a little sooner in the survey, in the customizable survey, than some of the other questions about the co-op and internship. So you can see here, we do ask some standard questions, trying to make sure that, we can surface how those students are finding their application or their internships, and how they want us to contact them in case we need to contact them for additional information. If you go to the next slide there, we do ask for the address again. Sometimes what we have found is on the Handshake standard question, what you'll get is the corporate office for the employer, Whereas in the survey, we get the actual street address where the student is going to be working. So that's why we asked for that again. Something we just added this year was the website, and that was to make it easier for our CIA team and our faculty to do research on some of the employers that they may not know as well. To be able to say, oh, okay, yeah, this is an employer we want to develop a relationship with and get more interns in that site. We do ask for supervisor contact information so that we can get in touch with the supervisors. When possible, we try to do site visits with a few internship and co-op students every semester. So this is a way that we use to get in touch with them. Next slide, please. Okay, and then here are some questions that, because we're trying to classify the students. You know, we have multiple students or multiple semesters of registration open at a time, especially summer and fall. So we need to know what semester are you actually looking to do that internship. If you're applying in May, but you're actually not interested in doing the internship until fall, we need to know that so we know, okay, we can push that a little more towards the back end, and so we can push these summer registrations through. We do ask for fairly detailed information on their job description. And we ask about research because our university has really been ramping up, including research as part of a student's experience. We actually hosted the National Student Conference on Research last year. And so it's good to have that information so that if we have an employer who is strongly encouraging research, we know that, and we know that these are employers we can reach out to for other types of experiences for our students.
Lori, if I can jump in real quick, specifically with the job description and with the position start date, these were two components that the Quality Enhancement Plan Committee were really interested in looking more at. So just know that you know, in order for it to be a HIP, it needs to be a new experience, something that's really transformational and intentional and related to their academic coursework. And so that job description, along with the start date for the specific position, really helps to tell that story. So know that it's something that students often neglect, but we definitely want to make sure that students understand this is not just, you know, I get coffee for a boss, but this is how are my academic courses really aligning with this specific internship that I'm involved in.
Thank you, Krysta. Go ahead to the next one. Students can request a certain number of credit hours for their co-op or internship experience, depending on which class that they are looking at. They may not be approved for all of the hours that they request, but it gives us a good guide to see how many that they are hoping to get. And if we can't approve them for that many hours, for example, if they're applying for a co-op position, they max out at 3. And if they say they want 6 hours, then we need to have a conversation with the student about, you know, can we switch this to an internship application? Do we need to, you know, do you need to register for another class this semester so that you don't lose full-time status, things like that. We also put our policy statements as part of our survey so that students know that we take some of this seriously, particularly our internship or our international students. They need to know that it's not just this process. We've also got to go through international student services and make sure that they're not falling out of status. We do not want them to fall out of status. They need to understand that we take the course requirements seriously. If they actually want academic credit, they have to register and pay for the class. We include policy statements about how they behave and that they're still covered under the code of conduct. For some of our majors, we include things like, you know, I understand that I have to upload my CPR certification. That's very common in our exercise science and sport management areas because they're often doing things where they may have to use that CPR certification. And we need to be able to document that, yes, they actually do have that. And then we also strongly encourage that they attach their offer letter to the application, and so that way we can compare it to what they've entered as part of their survey responses, and make sure that things are, they're saying the same things in both places. So those are things that are very important to us. We do a lot of cross-checking with this.
So obviously in the age of COVID, things have been interesting. Internships and co-ops were not exempt from that. And we received, at the time where our university transferred very quickly within 2 days into fully remote status. We received a lot of questions from faculty, from the president's office, about COVID's implications on internships and co-ops. And so we pretty quickly relied on our partners in our Office of Legal Affairs at our university. And if you haven't made strong connections there yet through your internship and co-op program, I would absolutely encourage you to do that. We have some really fantastic people over there that just help us to understand what we are responsible for as a university and as a department, but also what the students' responsibilities are and what the supervisors' responsibilities are. So Lori alluded to our guiding principles for internships and co-ops. This is a standard document that we've had for many, many years that really just helps students to understand all of the responsibilities that they have and the standards that we hold them to in their internships and co-ops. But also in that document is included what supervisors' responsibilities and what our expectations are of them as well. So if you haven't created something like this that you could share with students and employers alike, I would definitely encourage you to do that. It just helps to answer a lot of the common questions that students and employers typically have. So we had legal actually go through a review of this document pretty quickly after we went remote to say, okay, typically, we don't allow remote or virtual internships or co-ops. We want students to be with a supervisor, being supervised, at all times. But right now, we also understand that access is a huge issue. And so we wanted legal to review this guiding principles to say, now we're allowing for remote internships because about 50% of our internships ended up being remote or virtual. And so can you help us to explain to students what their responsibilities are in this time of a pandemic and what the employer's responsibilities are? A lot of that was adhering to state and federal guidelines, but we are not the experts on that, so we didn't want to be the ones to write it. We wanted legal to be the ones to write it. So another process we implemented is our DocuSign process. So for many of our academic departments and colleges right now, in addition to the Handshake experience form, they also have a DocuSign document that outlines, specifically what the site supervisor is going to be implementing for an orientation process. The student also understands if their internship were to end early, what academic implications may happen there, whether it's supplemental coursework they would need to complete instead of doing their internship, or, if the course has to end early, does that mean that you forego that academic credit? So we wanted students to think about this process before their internship actually started. So we tied that closely to the experience form as well. And so we also had that reviewed by legal to make sure that we weren't kind of stepping out of lines and having students consider all of these possibilities. So again, we were kind of providing counsel to faculty and to various departments at the university during this time. A lot of them were asking, what can we have students do in lieu of their internship that may have been canceled or rescinded, an offer rescinded. And so we really took this time to fall back on the importance of career readiness competencies and making sure that our students are market ready once they graduate. So honestly, we've had a lot of really fruitful conversations come out of this time and getting faculty to see how they can start to integrate some of these professional competencies and professional development into their specific courses. We also polled our former internship and co-op sites, so sites from last fall, last spring, to say, as you're thinking about hosting interns and co-op students again, are you thinking about going remote? Are you even offering them at all? So that provided us with a pretty extensive list. We had about 300 contacts on that list of students, of contacts that students could reach out to talk about internship opportunities, and also to let the rest of our university know that just in this crazy time that we're in, internships are not going away. And so we want to make sure that we're still trying to find unique and strategic ways to provide access to those internships and co-ops. And then obviously we wanted to make sure that we were constantly following the ever-changing and updating data to understand what employers were doing and what other universities were doing. So we heavily rely on NACE, which is the National Association of Colleges and Employers, to help us create some of those benchmark and those strategic plans.
Okay. So, so some of the benefits or the pros of the system, because we've been able to get so much academic department buy-in, we're getting a lot more standardized data collections from our applications. When we had multiple systems running, some questions would get asked on some applications, some questions would get completely skipped. So, it was hard to do an apples to apples comparison of majors when half of them weren't asking how many hours a week the student was working. So, so now when we are looking at the applications of the students that we work with, we're getting standardized data for all of those departments. And that makes it easier when our CIA team is going in to try to sell this to another department. They've got better data to bring with them to say, look what you could bring, or look what you could have access to if you started using Handshake experiences to manage your internship program. We love that the templates can be tailored to each college and each major. There are things that I mentioned earlier, the exercise science and sport management, they need to have information in there about CPR certification. In accounting, CPR certification is probably only needed on tax day, and really not that often, right? So it wouldn't make sense to ask that on the accounting application. So being able to really tailor these templates has really also helped with getting buy-in from other academic departments. I think they also really appreciate the fact that we can tailor that approval process to them, because they can, they can have as many faculty looking at these applications as they want, or not at all if they want. And again, if we're getting better data, the academic departments are getting better data in return. They can then use that to show the value of their majors, and they always appreciate that. Some lessons learned about using Handshake experiences. It's important when you are designing your templates that you are keeping things as standardized as possible. So even if I'm not adding the pages in the same order, I'm keeping the same information on the pages, so that if I'm having to add in a page for a particular major, I can easily find the information. Say, for example, I needed to add a page in for political science majors to have them write a statement about their philosophy of government. We don't, but I'm using that as an example. If I'm pulling data out for a campus-wide snapshot, I don't necessarily need that information in that campus-wide snapshot. But because I'm putting that information by itself, I can easily then move to the next section and find information on the name of the employer, the salary range, the hours, that sort of thing, without driving myself too crazy. If you put the employer name on one page in one area, and then you put it on another page in another area, it starts to become a little haphazard and much harder to find. From my perspective, making sure when I'm working with our team that we're being clear about using survey versus template language, because there are some things that we can change in the survey that we don't necessarily change at the template level. So it's just understanding what that is and making sure everybody understands what we're talking about so that we're all on the same page. One thing we have learned big time is that if you want to implement a change on the template, it's best to wait until after the registration period for that semester has ended. Because if you don't, then you end up with half your applications asking a question one way, the other half asking that same question slightly different, and so your answer may be slightly different. So making sure that you are implementing changes on a particular time frame is a good practice. And then, as Krysta mentioned earlier, the evaluation piece, we tried it in Handshake. It's a good tool, it just didn't work for us. So that's why we went back to Qualtrics. And I think we are more comfortable with being able to have that hands-on control of when evaluations go out and being able to follow up and things. So so that's why we went with Qualtrics. And then our wish list, and I know we've told this to Handshake on multiple occasions, if we could customize the emails in the templates or that students receive as part of their templates, so that we could, put in some additional spacing and, just make them a little prettier, we would love that. So yes, HTML templates would be awesome. Krysta, do you have anything to add here?
No, I think you covered it. The only thing I would add is we found, and this kind of goes back to the academic department buy-in, through our conversations and relationship building with academic departments, we realized that some of them were accredited by professional associations, and those professional associations like to come back and do visits to make sure that they're still adhering to the guidelines that the association stands for. And we were able to be a huge part of that process and getting that data for those meetings and meeting with those accreditors, and really helping that department tell their story. And so that, I would say, is probably one of our biggest selling points, and one of the pieces where Handshake has been super instrumental is, making it an easy process for students, but also making it an easy process for that academic department to be able to tell their story to constituents as well.
All right, everyone, our presenters are perfectly on time. I asked for us to have 15 minutes for us to get to your questions, so thank you so much for sending those in advance. I want to just remind folks before time gets away from us, I'm going to keep this screen up, and also one of our handshakers will be dropping Krysta and Lori's email information in the chat for all to see. So if we don't get to your question, please know it's not because we don't want to, but in the interest of time. But Krysta and Lori will be happy to reach out to you otherwise. If you had a great time here today, please go and register for, I think we have about 2 more in our Handshake Summer Series about best practices as learned from folks doing the good work on the ground, like all of you in attendance today. So Krysta and Lori, give me a moment just to go up here and start with some of the great questions that we already have coming in for you. A very early one here. Solaika, I apologize. Your relationship manager gave me the phonetic spelling of your name, and I hope I still also didn't botch it, but Gabe did try to assist you, so know that he knows how to pronounce it. So if I didn't, that's not on him at all, completely my fault. We're requesting that faculty transfer all of internship contacts to Handshake. If you've implemented a similar process at your institution, do you have a sample letter that you can, oh, sorry, that's actually not the one. I actually had them reach out to you so that you can, you can share whatever documents you might already have with them. So I apologize. Nope, that is still the correct question. Do you just collect employer contact information from faculty and send them an invitation through Handshake? Was that even clear? Was I over talking too much?
No, I think you're good. And Lori, jump in here with that. What I want to make sure is clear is that we, in the beginning, these contacts that faculty have worked so hard to gain over many years are gold to them. And so what we wanted to do, especially when you're thinking about implementing kind of a university-wide process where they're all housed in one system, we want them to know that those contacts are still their contacts. We are just creating like a filing system, basically. So, because as you can imagine, a lot of these contacts may be tied to university scholarships or departmental scholarships. And so I don't have any specific like email templates, but that may be something we can work with our employer relations team to get. But it would be very important just to make sure that they know that these email contacts are going to be handled with care and not in a way that is only going to serve your specific department.
Good point.
And I think one thing that you could do with this, and I seem to recall that we did this with at least one department before Krysta's time, was instead of us sending out the initial email, the faculty members send it out to let them know that this change was coming and that they should be expecting an email from us, and to let the employers know too that, you know, just because we're switching how we track the information doesn't mean you're losing me as your contact for this opportunity. So that might be a way to smooth the waters a little bit as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just a little perspective, if you can give on your workflow. I don't remember which of you were going through this. A clarifying question from Anthony. The student fills out the Handshake application only after they have secured an internship, or do students seeking a future internship fill out your form? And is there a deadline for completion of the form?
Yes, that's a great question. So we really encourage students to only fill out the experience form when they have received an offer for and accepted that offer for the internship or co-op. So our deadline is about a week before classes begin. Usually that gives us enough time to make sure that all of the students that we can expect to do internships or co-ops for credit that semester have already put in that experience form and they're ready to go. But then it gives us a little bit more than a week to make sure that it's able to go through the approval processes so we can get that student into the internship or co-op class that they're looking for. We worked very closely with our academic departments and registrar's office to set that deadline. And so just know that that is something that you would probably want to make sure that you do.
And I can share just from my book of business that most of the schools I personally work with do wait until after the student has secured the internship as well. When cross-checking, do you find that students often report details that are different from their offer letter? From Laura.
Yes.
They aren't correct and perfectly honest all the time.
Weird. Lori and I have actually lately had a lot of conversations about this. So yeah, we absolutely do. And I think that is why the faculty member being involved is so important in making sure that, you know, throughout the course of the internship, the faculty member is really going to be the one that's holding them accountable, saying, well, you said that you're going to be doing accounting work for Starbucks, but it sounds like you're really just being a barista, which is important, but also not accounting work. So I think that yeah, we do see that, and we want to make sure that the faculty member knows how to address that too.
I love this next question because it's real specific to what you all are doing. Can you please elaborate on how you incorporated the DocuSign process into the Handshake experiences process? At ASU, we have many internship staff that use DocuSign for placement agreements, but that process is separate from the Handshake experiences process. Any recommendations to best consolidate these two? Thank you, Hannah.
Yeah, so right now what we're doing, and we're continuing to do it for fall, so we just started it for summer to manage our remote internships. So we're continuing through the fall, and as soon as a student fills out that experience form and it comes to the advisor's desk, basically, then the advisor sends out the DocuSign to the student and to the student supervisor to review and to sign off. So our checkpoint is that the student will not be given the override to get into the internship or co-op course until that DocuSign document has been completed and signed by all parties. So the approval process for the experience form is continuing to run, but the DocuSign process is also continuing to run. So we're hoping that they reach the end point near the same time, so then the student can be cleared to register for the class. How our internship and co-op classes are set up at KSU, they're not open, so a student couldn't just go in and register for an internship or co-op class. They need to complete the experience form first before they're cleared to register for that class.
Thank you. Was the integration of Qualtrics something that you could embed in Handshake, or at the very least with a link to redirect them? Or did you have to contact the students and other constituents separately and track them separately? Thank you, Peter.
So that is a process we do separately. So what we typically, the process for us each semester is we'll download the contact list of students and supervisors, and whoever we process evaluations for through our office, depending on academic department buy-in, we will send them that Qualtrics link.
Fabulous. Do you work in the international services approval part? Do you work the international services approval part into the experience section on Handshake or outside of Handshake?
So we have that question in Handshake. So basically that is one of the questions that our advisors know to pay super close attention to. If you have an international student that says, yes, I'm looking to get CPT, then we will email that student to say, hey, this is your contact with the International Student Success Services office, and you need to make sure that you complete this process with them prior to the beginning of your internship. So we've had some discussions about if there's a way for us to integrate our two systems, and right now it doesn't seem that would be the most kind of streamlined or conducive way for the student. So what we're doing is we're doing a lot of information sharing and relationship building with that international student office.
Yeah, and our international student office actually has a level of access in Handshake to be able to look directly at the students' applications, so that if they have questions about what the student has turned into them, they can access the information directly.
That's good. I love this next question. Thank you, Christopher. Trying to leverage the hell out of this tool. I'd love to know how the office might have used or experimented with experiences creatively. For example, using it for job shadow, mentorship, or non-internship co-op experiences, if at all. Christopher is really trying to explore how to leverage the system for other types of experiences as well if possible. Any creative failures or surprise experiments out there, Krysta and Lori, to share?
We did not with experiences because we knew we were going to need it for the co-op and internship program. We didn't want to muddy the waters. And I will say too, when we switched to Handshake, experiences was the first thing that we launched to students. So it was important to us to kind of keep that clean, so that the students understood exactly what the purpose of it was and why they needed to do these experiences application. So, but I have heard of places that are using it for non-credit internships. So, I mean, that's certainly something that could be done. We run our job shadow program through the employers piece of Handshake, not through experiences.
All right.
We have run our we have audit level internship and co-op courses as well at KSU. So we run those experiences the same as we do a 4-credit internship or co-op. But I would say if you have, university buy-in from the top to implement it and use that experiences form as like an experiential education experiences, I could definitely see how you could use it for, volunteer experiences, for study abroad, even things like that.
All right, we'll see if we can squeeze in one more. Right now, our internships program is under our control in our department. Do you feel like it's better, is not under our control, sorry. Do you feel like it's better to have control and use experiences? From Rebecca.
Ours wasn't either. So I think that we're kind of coming from the part that may be a little more challenging to come from, and that if you aren't kind of given that experiences torch from your university president or whoever, but it's more decentralized and so it's managed in a lot of different places, there's still a way to create a streamlined, centralized process. So I would just say you can work it from any angle. You can kind of really sell the benefits of using the experiences form from any angle. And so I would just start where you were.
All right. Well, I know that you all have many, many meetings to attend to on your campus. We just want to thank you all for spending an hour with us. I know here at Handshake, we're very grateful for the work you all are doing on the ground in service to students and your stakeholders even during this time. And time is our one precious commodity. So thank you all for sharing some of that with us at Handshake, and a specific shout out to Krysta and Lori for giving us your brain, your wisdom, your time, and just thoughtfulness in helping other partners leverage the experiences tool. Everyone, you will get a recording, so never fear, and you can share it with your colleagues as well. Go sign up for more webinars, lots of knowledge and best practices for us to learn. Thank you so much, Krysta and Lori.
Thanks. Hope you guys have a good day.